It's very important that you stay balanced. The primary foundation of what you are is love, and that's what trading enthusiasts don't want you to know. So, the easiest way to deceive someone is to come in the name of love and slowly tear you away from it, redefine it, to ensnare you in a web of fear. The art of disinformation is providing enough true information so that when the false information is presented, it will be taken as true. This is why the concept of truth being relative is so heavily promoted.
What is true for you.
The truth simply being left up to the mob, instead of a scientifically defined society, has failed to bring us long-lasting happiness. Collectively, instead of happiness, we are abused addicts, medicating the self-inflicted pain of our broken social system, chasing after shallow pleasures, instead of truly embracing and valuing each other.
The first question is not why the addiction, but why the pain. What caused you the emotional pain that you're trying to escape with the addiction experience? And addiction is not restricted to substances. And the same brain circuits that are activated in drug addiction, they're also activated in behavior addictions. The more historical stress there was, you're going to get much higher rates of addiction, which is precisely what we see. Oh no, it's not a question of poor parenting. It's a question of stressed parenting. First of all, we have to see the drug addict as ourselves. The only difference between myself and my clients in the downtown east side is they suffered more than I did. Hence, their desperation for soothing and pain relief was greater than mine. So first of all, we have to see them not as others, but as ourselves. And to recognize that our judgments of them are simply our refusal to deal with certain parts of ourselves that are too uncomfortable and painful for us to look at. And if we understood that, we'd have a completely different social approach. We would put the funds and the resources into rehabilitating people, into helping them. And we would also make sure that young families get the proper support. So there's so much we can do without any more expenditure of funds than we're dealing with right now, but we'd have to have a complete shift of perspective. All we have to do is consult science and our experience and our hearts, and we know what to do.
If the market is allowed to continue, all the possible totalitarian elements of the future will not be forced upon the people will demand them.
And the reaction will dictate whether or not it's fully against it.
For the social manipulation of society through the generation of fear and division has completely detached humans from their sense of power and reality.
We talk about terrorists a lot today, and yet there's probably very little attempt to try to understand why people are terrorists.
The masses have very little already, so those landlords who have the infrastructure and who are going to make money because of the infrastructure that is built through their roads, they will prosper. But the ones who don't have any resources, they've not had jobs, there isn't an economic activity for them in terms of manufacturing goods, so they can sell and they can also prosper. When you don't have that, what do? They resort to joining the Taliban, because they see the enemy coming in and taking away what little bit they have. A process which has been going on for centuries, if not millennia. Religion, patriotism, race, wealth, class, and every other form of arbitrary separatist identification thus conceived has served to create a static, apathetic society which denies new scientific understandings, finds comfort in mediocrity, and craves reassurance from the ignorant and those in power. Divide and conquer is the motto. As previously stated, there's no such thing as good versus evil, right versus wrong, as those are arbitrarily defined to the convenience of those who want to continue this broken social system of trade and money. There's only sickness versus health, and no form of violence is healthy, no matter how large an ignorant authority is, or how much a mob society wants to use an individual as a scapegoat for its own shortcomings. And as long as we see ourselves as separate from everything else, we continue to give ourselves a wide variety of more pain and suffering.
Gives me a really good deal on the split. I make good money.
There it is again, the invisible hand at work, controlling us, even if it pushes us past our threshold of pain.
There's no reason why this kind of what I would call a divide and conquer strategy has to exist. There is a reason why it does exist. I think that conservative politicians in the U.S. do realize that they can get the public to ignore the inequities in our society with a divide and conquer strategy. If they don't provide a free college education for everybody, then of course they're going to get people to say, we don't want prisoners to be getting a free college education, because they aren't. That, along with many other factors, can distract them from noticing that, in fact, the outcome of all this is a much more violent society than we need to have, or than we would have if we simply spread the wealth more equitably in our very wealthy society. But if you're leading a political party whose fortunes depend on meeting the needs of the very wealthiest segment of the population, you're not going to worry about these things that much. You're going to try to take care of the wealthy, and to hell with the question of how much violence you wind up with.
Division and destruction is the goal of the market. So if people ever realize the truth of their relationship to nature and the truth of their personal power, the entire manufactured social atmosphere that trading enthusiasts prey upon would collapse like a house of cards. Beyond a doubt, truth bears the same relation to falsehood as light to darkness. No matter how much we want to try and fool ourselves, our present economic system requires the perpetual growth in population and in the use of resources and energy. It is not sustainable and must eventually collapse. Should we start discussing this now for our grandchildren's sake, or we don't care? War, poverty, corruption, hunger, misery, human suffering will not change in a monetary system. That is, there will be very little significant change. It's going to take the redesign of our culture, our values, and it has to be related to the carrying capacity of the earth, not some human opinion or some politician's notions of the way the world ought to be, or some religious notions of the conduct of human affairs. And that's what the Venus Project is about.